the TOR is hugely overstaffed.
There's too many. It's 800 people or something.
No, it's more. Yeah, we're getting close to 900 and even on to nearly 1,000.
That's too many people.
Nearly 1,000. That's right. Because that refinery is designed to have the staff position of only about between 450 and 500 maximum.
Wow, you have twice as many.
Twice as many. So you have a lot of people just coming there, collecting pay, doing virtually nothing. The debt can be put in different categories. For example, a lot of the debt is only due to transactional problems. Let's say a price review is done and then price drops, whilst we have bought products, at higher prices and we have stocks.
What price? The
world price.
Yes.
Because the world price affects the pricing here.
Right.
Because we use what we call landed cost pricing for ex-refinery.
That's fine.
And so that affects us. The depreciation of the city, that's also another transactional loss. Yeah. So you're operating at a certain forex rate, and then all of a sudden the city depreciates. So even your debt stock on the books keep rising because they just multiply by the current exchange rate.
Sounds hopeless.
Yes. So it can be very tricky.
Yeah.
Very tricky.
Okay.
And then also some of the debt is just from OMCs refusing to pay TOR. So then we experience a lot of debt from that side.
Looks like the refinery has very good infrastructure. That's how it seems. It looks like the infrastructure is really good and it appears quite modern. Is that the case really?
Well, I mean, you are looking at a 54-year-old factory. The earlier part of it, commissioned in 1963, is the crude distillation unit. And subsequently, under President Kufuor, a residual fuel catalytic cracker was put in place to enable us to do secondary processing. So the factory is not new, 50 plus years, but perhaps we can squeeze another 25 or so out of it, But so it means that the planning for the new refinery has to start now.
You want to do a new refinery?
I think the country has to do a new refinery. Not only because of our positioning as a hub for the West African sub-region, perhaps bar Nigeria, for finished products. I think that going forward, we definitely have to build a new refinery or a number of refineries to position Ghana very well. Considering the finds that we are making in the various fields, I think that would be the best approach.
If they are very strong in the system and are able to refine to that level, all other products that are supposed to be brought into the market are to meet that 50 ppm level. So we know they can do it, and it's just the support that we need to get them. Their balance sheet, of course, currently is very weak. We need to strengthen that and make them look more attractive to the market. Immediately they are able to improve on the balance sheet. Of course, anybody who wants to do business with TOR will be willing to do that. Yeah.
TOR and its crippling debts, and its money, infrastructure issues, equipment issues, it's all over. And we need, as a country, to only know one thing. Since the Fourth Republic, every president has talked about value addition of our natural resource. It just so happens that the last natural resource the good Lord gave us, which is oil, we already have a refinery to be able to add value. But interestingly, since we started mining oil commercially, the refinery seems to be losing its ability to do its work. So we should collectively, apart from the debt overhang, which is nearly $250 million, we should collectively decide that we don't want to lose TOR. We have to find the right partnerships, managerial, infrastructure, equipment, to enable TOR to work, and also invite other refineries into the system to make it even better. But like you said, The challenges are everywhere. People owe them, they are not able to collect. They owe them, they also owe people who are on their necks trying to even take part of their business. So we have to collectively sit down, and if I'm passed by your noble house, it is one of the most engaging situations on our hands. TOR and its crippling debts, and its money, infrastructure issues, equipment issues, it's all over. And we need, as a country, to only know one thing. Since the Fourth Republic, every president has talked about value addition of our natural resource. It just so happens that the last natural resource the good Lord gave us, which is oil, we already have a refinery to be able to add value. But interestingly, since we started mining oil commercially, the refinery seems to be losing its ability to do its work. So we should collectively, apart from the debt overhang, which is nearly $250 million, we should collectively decide that we don't want to lose TOR. We have to find the right partnerships, managerial, infrastructure, equipment, to enable TOR to work, and also invite other refineries into the system to make it even better. But like you said, the challenges are everywhere. People owe them, they are not able to collect. They owe them, they also owe people who are on their necks trying to even take part of their business.
Yes, TOR is not refining at the moment, but I know that under the direction of the Minister for Energy, TOR has some arrangements in place that would allow TOR to become operational within the shortest possible time. As to whether there is a cabal that is preventing its operations or not, I cannot tell. But generally, cabals exist everywhere. Like I said, people who are smuggling illegal fuels, people who are adulterating, can all be categorized as cabals. So to the extent that there are any group of people who are doing anything that is anti-nation or that is contrary to the aspirations of our country, it can be considered as a cabal. So they may well be, but that shouldn't bother us. What should bother us is that the Minister for Energy is determined that TOR becomes operational within the shortest possible time. There are
anything whatsoever to secure the contract. They should revisit the report and address the issue raised in the due diligence report. Until then, we will not allow them to take over, since Torenco is the only viable entity to handle the contract. Why is management and the board not coming out openly to look for partners to who are fit for the takeover, but rather doing these things clandestinely? Ladies and gentlemen, this mischievous attempt by these actors, who also double as board of the directors, not only smacks conflict of interest and inducement of workers, but also an attempt to secretly reward some compromised workers' front. Fellow Ghanaians, on the blind side of the 99% of Tema oil refining workers and executive management, some few executives of TOR, local union executive UNICOF, Abu Abbas, Bright Adongo, and their cohorts, Albert Amoaku Ajay, Scott, Sivia, and Emmanuel Abankwa, have secured an agreement with Torenco to incorporate an entity by guarantee in order benefit from 20% shares in the new SPV, Tema Energy and Processing Limited, without recourse to workers and management. In our singular position, ladies and gentlemen, if this gesture or decision ticks the prudence, ethics, and conflict of interest boxes, shouldn't it have gone through management for a comprehensive workforce engagement and establishment of the right modality and the structures, unless this is just a cover-up to reward this section of workers, executives, who also double as Torenco surrogates within the refinery? Ladies and gentlemen, we are by this press release pleading with His Excellency, the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, to restore maturity in the corporate governance at TOR, driving decision to resolve this incompetent board. We equally seek to remind the executive management, especially the acting managing director, to do the needful with the evidence available to establish orderliness in TOR. If these board members, they compromise TOR Unicorp executive and their cohort, should be made to freely work in the refinery. Thank you very much, and may the good Lord bless you.
That's some workers of the Tema oil refinery expressing their disgust at their board, that's the governing board of directors, over what they claim as an attempt to destroy the entity Tema oil refinery over an activity of another company called Torrentco. We're going to go into the details of that, but the question tonight, the very big one, is what exactly is the issue with the Tema oil refinery? So we've played for you some bites from some past executive or chief executive officers of the Tema oil refinery. We've played for you some bites of a former minister of the Tema oil refinery. We've played for you a bite of the chief executive officer of the National Petroleum Authority. We've played for you a bite of the current Minister of Energy over the same issue. What exactly is happening with TOR? Tonight, we want to delve deep into what the issues are and what can be done to resolve what exactly is happening there at TOR. It's been year over year of opposition from Junior Staff Association, Senior Staff Association, rancor between staff and their board, sometimes rancor between staff and management, and so on and so forth. How can we resolve the issues at all? There are a lot of people who felt somewhere around 2007 when oil was discovered here in Ghana, running down to 2010 when we began drilling oil, the Jubilee field, the 10 field, and so on and so forth. There was hope that TOR was going to be revamped. TOR was going to get its own oil to treat. We learned later on that the nature of oil that was being drilled from the shores of Ghana were very lightweight, what they call the sweet light oil, and that couldn't have been refined by the Tema oil refinery. So what was to be done was an expansion, an injection of about $1 billion to be able to do that. As to whether any investor would be able to do this or would be allowed to do this is another issue all around together. So you want to stick and stay with us. When I come back from this break, if possible, I'll still play back for you some of the bites, and I'll have my guest seated here in the studio. We'll get into a discussion right away. You're welcome back from the break. So I've already told you about some of the issues happening at the Tema oil refinery. We don't have a lot of time to go back into the details and how it was founded, and so on and so forth, and what's been happening with this so far. But at least for some few years back, we've played for you the troubles TOR has gone through and the admission of same by the various chief executive officers and the ministers of energy or ministers of power and energy, and the need to be able to revamp TOR. So I'll go straight into what is happening currently, the issues that are happening now. And let me welcome here in the studio my very own brother, Duncan Amoah, is the executive director of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, COPEC. Duncan, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us.
Every year, my brother. The only difference is that you are growing more handsome, and I am not adding handsomeness.
Let me no comment. Let me
okay.
just.
You are growing more handsome. We'll investigate.
But anyway, thank you. And then Anthony Jojo Kumsin is a senior staff union chairman, Tema Oil Refinery, and I see GTPCWU. What's GTPCWU?
General Transport, Petroleum and Chemical Workers Union.
Oh, okay. So that's across the industry.
Yeah.
The energy industry.
Yes.
So not for Tema Oil Refinery only.
Yeah.
And you are the senior staff union chairman.
Yes, please.
There is also the junior staff union.
Yes.
And they have their chairman.
Yes.
But let me ask you, I'll come to Duncan pretty shortly. What exactly are your issues? What's happening at all? You did a press conference, invited the media, and in very, very harsh words, attacked your governing board, mentioned names, and say to the general public that they should be taken off.
Yeah. There's an ongoing transaction that lacks transparency. In recent time, the board has decided that they are not going to make any information known to anybody. They're going to shelve everything under the armpit and make sure that nobody have a look at what they are proposing on the table with the partner that we used to know to be Torrentco and now has come up with a new SPV by name Tema Energy and Processing Limited. And so everything about this entity and the arrangement that they seek to have with Tor is now in secrecy. The board has decided that nobody, no stakeholder within Tor, internal Tor stakeholder will be allowed to see. In fact, the last time we spoke to the MD, he had no clue what that is. He said he does not know.
No. Let's. This is a very national platform.
Yeah.
We know you've done your press conference.
Yeah.
You put things out.
Yeah.
We are having time to digest this. You are telling us that the deal, which is currently on the table for Tema Oil Refinery, the managing director of Tema Oil Refinery has no idea what is happening.
Yes, that is his information he gave us. Earlier on, what we had was a draft agreement. The board told us that this is just draft, so all the issues that we raised in that draft paper, they will change them. They are still, it's a work in progress, so we'll see the final copy. Before the existing MD resigned and left, he had heard of the updated lease agreement, but has also not seen it. This new acting MD that has taken over from him, the last time we visited him last week, he said that he has also heard of the updated lease agreement, but he hasn't seen it.
Updated by who?
By the board. No exim, no general manager in the refinery, no manager in the refinery has seen, made any input. Frankly speaking, nobody understands the refinery business than the people in the refinery. But in this arrangement, nobody has seen it.
No, I would have taken these as allegations, but I have a confirmation that yes, you work with Tor, and so you are a staff member of Tor. So it cannot be allegations, and that's why I am a bit taken aback. And you're telling me that the previous manager who resigned, I think about 2 months ago or so, had no idea what the Torrentco deal is.
He had no idea what the updated version that the board is holding now, what it was, because they sought not to make it available.
But the original version, he had an idea.
The original, it was a draft version.
You had an idea about the draft version?
Yes, we had an idea from which we raised a lot of issues to be addressed.
Okay. What is the deal about from the draft version you had?
The deal is all about a lease arrangement that Torrentco, that came out from Decimal Capital Limited, sought to have with the Tor, as in we leased the plant to them for 6 years. And within the 6 years, they are going to pay certain rent to the refinery. They are going to put some funds into a CAPEX account for maintenance work as and when it's due. They're going to be responsible for staff salary every month and all that. That is in summary. That's what a deal is all about.
Are you against? And I am asking this specifically because of a statement the staff had made. Are you against the taking over of Tor?
No.
You're not.
In fact, we are part of those who think that the share owner or the ownership of Tor, as in its share base, should be diluted. Just like, look, some years back, Tor and Guel were in the same scenario of insolvency. And then from that time, Guel has taken, there's been deliberate attempt to make sure that gold comes out from this. And so it got to a time that they met the stock exchange requirement and they floated shares. And now gold is where it is now. Some of us have the view that the same principle or the same process Tor must go through, where a credible partner is made to partner with Tor with technical and financial support and other know-how. Get the refinery to run efficiently. Then it can be able to meet the stock exchange requirement. Float shares where the government now gives out some percentage of its shares to the public. This partner that partner with Tor to get to this place can be made to absorb some of the shares. And then we can see Tor thriving, making prudent decisions based on data, based on principles that work, without external influence. This is the kind of Tor some of us want to see in Tema Refinery. This is the kind of arrangement that we want to find ourselves working in and be happy to ply our trade in the refinery. This is what we look out for in the refinery.
Let me come to you, Duncan. You have been in the industry for some years. From the issues of corporate governance, what Anthony is telling us dwells on the issues of corporate governance specifically at all. And the fact that we have had problems of this sort over and over and over and over and over again. Now, I have been reading briefly about Tor and the takeover. At a point, they suggested that 3 different or 4 different attempts of takeover by different companies. Is that the case? In a very short period of this board, the life of this board.
Okay, so when this board was constituted and commissioned, they were given, part of their mandate is to look for a strategic partner, to partner with Tor. Prior to they being commissioned, the IMC was also tasked in part of their work to look out for a strategic partner. So before this board took over, the IMC, through the Energy Ministry, had called us to tell us that the IMC has secured a credible partner who has what it takes to support the refinery through financial support and then crude oil supply and some technical know-how. So we're all happy to hear that from the Energy Minister when he called all the unions in the refinery to his office and told us this. Interestingly, when this board took over with the same mandate, we thought they were going to continue from where the IMC had left. But no, they set everything aside with the explanation that all the entities that the IMC dealt with were looking for sovereign guarantee from the state, and so they didn't think that it was worth the while. And then they had to bring in another entity to, in their wisdom, who qualifies to partner with Tor through this journey.
Let me leave the experts to speak to this. And from your angle, I mean, I call you an expert because we have followed you all through the releases you make all the time, the expert advice you give all the time. We follow through on energy issues, on power issues, and so on and so forth, on fuel pricing and so on and so forth. Can Tor be saved? A very simple question.
Every year, good evening again. I wonder if I qualify for that big title. I'm a trotro.
Oh no, we will, because we have been following you. I mean,
I am a trotro driver on a normal day, but my appreciation of energy issues, I don't discount. I'm a trotro driver. I don't know much, but I do think that it is common sense. If somebody wants something to work, you would see from their actions how they want something to work. And again, it is also trite knowledge that when a certain entity behaves like a chameleon, there usually is a challenge with their identity, their motives, and what they really set out to do. We've been discussing Tor back and forth for a couple of months now. There was a point when the workers took to demonstrating that they want nothing but to see their refinery get back to work, which is nationalistic. every year I've always said that somewhere in the late 1990s, the refinery single-handedly was doing almost 5% of Ghana's economy. I'm sure it could be doing even way more at this point, considering that we are importing over 4.8 billion United States dollars worth of petrol, diesel, and petroleum products into the country each year. What are these foreign refineries doing that we are not doing with our refinery? They are working with what you would call petroleum economics or energy economics, right? Your input costs should not exceed your recoverables or returns. And so if I'm putting in 100, I should be able to generate 120 to just stay in business. What have we done with our refinery? We only leave it to bleed. And then when suggestions are put on the table, in fact, I have a document here, beautifully crafted or prepared by some of the very people within the refinery who understand the refinery business. They look at the history, where the refinery is, plant audits, what they have done to assess whether the refinery can be made viable or not. Every year, when you go to tour, how to kickstart that refinery, I'm not sure you need an expert from anywhere. They know. How to get a refinery to run. You don't need anybody from outside. They know. How to make the refinery sustainable, not even profitable, to just make it sustainable, where X equals Y, not X is greater than Y. They know. How to make the refinery profitable, they know. The challenge has been we have not invested in the refinery, and so time has caught up with it. A lot of the plants and equipment would need to have, been retooled or, changed.
Retrofitted.
We say we don't have the money every year. There are financial and economic models that would simply give you money, right? Good corporate governance could simply be ensured if we dealt away with this politicization of the refinery every year, where people who don't even have the slightest idea how to differentiate petrol or premium from gas oil. They can't tell. If you put diesel in this bottle, you put petrol in this bottle, you put kerosene in another bottle, they cannot be able to distinguish which is which. They can't. We put them in very sensitive positions to go and take decisions for the workers and the people and the engineers, right, who make up the refinery. We put these people to go and take day-to-day decisions for the refinery. So every year, I agree perfectly well with what the gentleman from the Toll Workers Union had indicated earlier. Float shares, okay? Float shares. Because the government says, I don't have the funds. I don't have money to inject. The public does. I'm sure if you floated shares for Toll, and I could put in $1 of my money, because I want to see a buoyant refinery. Dangote next door is building one. In recent times, your own news items, the Central Refinery, which sits just about 400 meters from Toll, is getting ready to commission every year. It tells you that the refining space is not a net loss game. It's profitable. Otherwise, there won't be newer investments or fresher investments. But what do we see? Over politicization. Now you have a board who, instead of thinking of best practices globally, are probably in a tunnel vision space where initially it was a DC capital arrangement that if you recall.
Yes.
Then the entity metamorphosed into another thing. Is it Bridgewater or Bay Bridge? Bay Bridge.
Bay Bridge.
Yes.
I have them.
Then the same entity now, as a chameleon, comes up with a Torrentco, agreement. And then the next thing you hear, the same entity has now shifted to become Tema Energy and Petroleum Limited. Or something. Every year, the entity that has not been granted the permit to take over the activities of Tor is already assigning, a charity NGO to a section of workers within Tor. So even before the bars will kickstart, some of the tires are already being plugged out. You would need this entity to come and work and show results. If you came in and worked as a new entity that says, okay, I have the capacity, I have both the financial muscle and the technical muscle to be able to kickstart the activities of Tor and make it sustainable. You haven't even come in to put $1 in your, returns book to say that, okay, Tor workers, we've made money. So I am giving you maybe bonus payouts, right?
Yes.
You are already starting with a charity organization as, taking 20% shares.
For the charity organization.
No, for the entity looking to take over the activities of every year. We are not dumb in this country. And let those taking these awful decisions, if they could see my eyes, they are extremely red. You can get away with the very, very useless things you want to do today. You can even decide to go against or after the workers. You can sack, you can kill them, you do whatever. But posterity would simply not judge any of them fairly. I am aware there's been a Falcon company, there's been some other companies that also come in to express interest, right?
Yes.
Some bring their technical people to even do plant audits, right? We are simply insisting as a country, right, and as leaders, people put in charge, that the only thing we want to do at this point is to go with a single entity whose identity, as I sit here every year, I cannot pinpoint to. Because from DC Capital, which I think we were, convinced anyway, that DC, if you looked at certain arrangements they had with Vitol, they were going to be able to do a certain job.
Yes.
Suddenly, DC transmogrifies or metamorphoses into a certain entity called Bay Bridge, right? Bay Bridge also transmogrifies into another thing called Torrenco. Then it also moves into another thing. Look, even before final, every year, they can get away with this. Let me warn. I am speaking as a very peeved Ghanaian who sees a central refinery, right? A private one, and all the tax reliefs we can advance to it, all that the government can help it to do, to establish, being done. I am watching Dangote come up with a $12 billion refinery, brand new, that he wants to use to uplift the Nigerian economy and petroleum security. Then I watch my leaders, board and management of the refinery, decide that of all the best practices globally, we will deal with a chameleon. Those are my words. Every year, we are not in the least enthused. And let us warn further. They can get away today, but the refinery is no single individual's, property. So if you sit there and you say, oh, I am a board member, I constitute the board, or I'm a managing director, so it is my turn. Know that there's been 20, 40 other managing directors before you. If they had sold off the refinery into that kind of arrangement, I'm not sure you would have been appointed. If you want best practices, open up and allow other potential investors come in. Let us all assess their books and say that, look, if Falcon is coming in and Falcon has a balance sheet every year of over 30 billion, right? And you are giving it an asset of 2-3 billion every year, you are quite comfortable that this entity knows what it is coming to do. But as it stands,
I get the impression that you are not against the sale or PPP arrangement or any arrangement that will revive or a private partner coming in to talk. What you are against is the Nicodemus way in which they want to do it.
every year, it all sounds fishy at this point. It smacks of some corruption that is yet to probably happen. Otherwise, you would wonder why the chicken that would lay a golden, egg is just being transferred cheaply. If you ask me how much Tor would need to retool, maybe 300 million USD, 500 million. If you ask me, does the entity looking to take over the activities of Tor have that capacity or muscle to raise that amount to bring Tor to a first-class refinery? The answer I would give you is a big no. Because I have seen a certain, report, initial report, that suggested that Torenco didn't have that capacity. We are not against Torenco, but open the floodgates. If you wanted Ghanaians to contribute maybe 100 million Ghana cedis every month.
And that's why Anthony suggests that at least float shares.
Float some shares.
Come in.
Open the gate.
So what is the problem
so
with the board?
So that the best practices could happen. But as it stands, we are just going to go with an entity. The entity can, behave like a chameleon. We don't care. Whatever happens, we'll just go ahead and sign.
What's the problem with the board? Is it that, and you had made those allegations, not you as in person, but I've read that you think the board has something to do with Torenco, and so,
let me help you.
Let me do that.
Save Anthony that headache. I can't, because he still works there.
Yeah.
I can speak, freely.
Yes, you can.
They wouldn't be able to pay my salary. They can't. So I can tell them as it is. The few within the board, whoever is within the board, that thinks that our national asset, right, can be joked or played or toyed with, they should be careful. We are watching the space. It's not as though it's just a worker union against worker union. We agree, we don't agree. No, we are looking for value for money. That is what Ghanaians are telling them today. That if you want Tor to do something, right, put the numbers together, crank these numbers. I am getting a strategic investor, right, every year. My RFCC would need retooling, 100 million. This is how much the investor is willing to put in for me, right? I am getting an investor who is saying that the CDU would need some retrofitting, and he is willing to put in $40 million every year. All the questions I've been asking on this program, it boils down to one thing. How much of an insurance guarantee or bank guarantee are we even demanding of this strategic partner? We haven't heard those answers. It looks as though some people have a certain agenda. Look, there's a deal to be done. Before you get done every year, I'll tell you something very shocking on this program, where another entity is equally being granted a certain free money, your money, from Jubilee Fields, from 10 Fields. We'll go there.
I'll come back shortly. But someone says the politicians allegedly use Tor as their storage for imported finished products. So how can it be revamped? Emmanuel Frimpong from Tema. Do they have imported finished products at all?
Okay, so now what we do is the terminal business that we have the facilities for that. So those are the small charges that we charge stakeholders who want to bring their product into refineries to store and then transfer and all that. The petroleum downstream industry, Tor plays a central role there. So a lot of entities need Tor's services in order to get their operations done. And so we're making some revenues in that respect. But specifically whether they are the individuals behind these entities, it will be very difficult from where I sit based on data to speak to.
Okay, let me take a quick break, very quick one. I'll come back. We still don't have a lot of time, but stay with us. We are delving into Tor today, and Duncan has promised to make a revelation. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Well, forgive me. So you're welcome back from the break. I'm looking at a lot of messages that I'm getting here. Anthony and his union members met management after their presser. Can I just make a little query here? Which has greater strategic importance to Ghana, Tor or Black Stars? How has subsequent governments treated Tor as compared to the Black Stars? Is there any stretch of imagination by which any rational being can reason to say Black Stars is more important than Tor? Well, these are questions, very rhetorical questions. You didn't add your name there, but let me come to you. And because of time, let me still add whether you've seen the statement from the governing board. I see it, I have read it, and I think they did not answer to your questions. They just put on English and said you have denigrated their reputation and so on and so forth. But the very issues that they have raised, and I can put the statement on the screen. Unfortunately, because of time, maybe they can put it on the side for people to read. But they did not answer to you. Have you seen it yourself? Yes, I've seen it. And what do you make of it?
situation like this, they think they can threaten and then flat their muzzles around. The Whistleblowers Act makes it very clear that if I see something that is going off that will affect the national interest of this state, it empowers me to speak it up and save the refinery and save Ghanaians and save all of us. And that's what we have done. They have not responded to our questions. There are critical issues that we have raised. Threats will not move us. We are resolute as workers. We want to see the refinery function the way we expect it to be. And the board must live up to that responsibility and get it done. Beside what they are doing. What they are doing is not what we asked them to come and do. We didn't bargain for this. They should get themselves together and get the refinery running. That is what we expect from them, and not threats.
Have they threatened you personally? I'm sure they have. You are the chairman. They must have attacked you on several fronts, have they?
I have just finished answering a query that was given to me because I engaged the media. But that is beside the point. Because every worker in the refinery is resolute.
And ready to make sure that I was just telling Duncan that we have been talking about this for far too long.
Resolute to make sure that nobody's shortchange induce workers with so-called tall workers charity trust. Nobody will allow that to happen. We slept when we woke up. Some 5 people have been coerced to do this at the blind side of everybody in the refinery, and they are the direct beneficiaries based on the incorporation documentation, and we will allow that.
They say they won't allow this to happen. I was asking you and telling you that we've been talking about this for far too long, and the problem doesn't seem to subside. Minister, we played the bite of the Minister of Energy. He admits that there is a problem. And let me add that final question, whether you've seen the statement from the board. And then the rest of the time is for you.
I do have all these documents, and it's sad that the workers are raising issues. You would expect that the board and management will be responsive enough to say that, oh, these are the issues you are raising. This is how best we have done, right? But like he said, intel we pick from in there is that people are flexing their muscles as though when Nkrumah was putting up that refinery, they probably brought out that idea, so they own the refinery. You don't. You could probably be playing a certain role, a worker, board member, management. But when people are asking critical questions that demand critical answers, you provide those answers and not go on a witch hunting spree, as I'm saying, every year. I would be happy to see the Office of the Special Prosecutor move in there.
At all?
Yes, immediately. Ioko should move in there.
So, Kisa, if you are watching us tonight, Duncan Amoah says you shouldn't wait for us to hear of any corrupt activity before you go in there. You should take action now at all. Is that what you're calling for?
The asset you are dealing with is huge. Tor is not a one district, one factory, $50 million thing, right? Tor is huge. It's in excess of $1 billion USD. And then you find management behaving the way they want. The people who work there say, we are not happy with the way things are going. And then they get victimized because somebody has got to flex muscles. Look, if you do the right thing every year, if they ask me to carry you, right, I should be able to carry you because I weigh 90, you weigh 70. But where you weigh 90, I weigh 30. Carrying you becomes impossible. This is the improper denominator or fraction that is being exercised. A huge asset over $1 billion. Some entity comes in with less than a stated capital of 10 million, right? And you say, I am handing over the over $1 billion for that person to transform without any demonstrable financial or technical, capacity. And when people ask the questions, then you say they should go and answer queries. Look, the board should be very careful. You would have expected that they have been indicted by the work front, right? I will be happy to see the ministry go in there. I'll be happy to see Ioko go in there. I'll be happy to see the supervising agencies go in there to ask the very hard questions, because every year, if Tor had done its things right, Central would not be gearing up to take over the Ghanaian market. Tor was set up in 1963. 2023 is 60 years minimum. I'm sure for any human, 60 years is a long time to have made amends, right? Corrected. But it is now that this 60-year-old plant is going to learn to crawl because of bad management decisions. Look, those decisions have led us to where we are. And I am telling the OSP that this smoke is not without fire. There's a lot going on there. There's a lot of answers to be provided for why a certain entity can keep forming itself from, DC to Bay Bridge to, Torrenco to Tema Energy and Petroleum, whatever, with share structure that you can't probably even explain. Every year we've listened to both sides. The last thing I'll put on your program.
Right.
The finance ministry, from what we gather, is equally signing a sweetheart deal with an entity called SML. Those details could be put out in the coming days. But whoever is thinking of letting an entity, right, come in to collect 0.75 cents per every barrel produced, right, from our oil fields, should think again. Every year, for the records, Ghana is producing between 130,000 barrels to 165,000 barrels daily. Do the math with 0.75 cents per barrel. It means that entity is going to go away with at least 100,000 USD every single day. The country needs the money. The state would need these monies to prosecute its economic agenda. A few individuals, just as you are seeing happening at all.
For what work done? Or for what
revenue assurance, they would call it. As though we are not already getting that revenue that we need from these. So if you are going to give revenue assurance and you need to throw out that revenue, the limited you have already.
SML is going to take $100,000 every single day.
Expect ASAP.
And you've seen
and
documents from the Ministry of Finance.
Those of us watching the space, to feed you a lot more details as the time progresses. But this is what we are picking. And we are cautioning that if this is what anybody is thinking of doing, they should shelve it. Because the state at where we find ourselves would need the money more than SML.
$100,000 every day.
Every single day.
Well, we'll be following through with the finance ministry. Let me give you 30 seconds. What exactly now you want? You have called for flotation of shares and so on and so forth. Finally, in 30 seconds, what do you want?
We want the stakeholders to reopen this strategic partnership bid again for credible partners. We want credibility, credible and competent partners to come and partner with the refinery and get us to do our work the way we know how.
And you want transparency as well. You want to know what is happening with the board and management. And you want the board taken out also. You made that in your press statement.
They have not demonstrated competency so far. They haven't.
Anthony Jojo Kumsin is the Senior Staff Union Chairman of the Tema Oil Refinery and also a member of the GTPCWU. Duncan Amwa